Star Wars 7x7 episode 2925. It's a big day here at Star Wars 7x7 because today is the 8th anniversary of this daily dose of Star Wars joy. Yes, Star Wars 7x7 debuted on July 7th, 2014, and on today's episode I'm going to focus on 8 highlights and memories and remarkable milestones and things for which I'm especially grateful during the run of the podcast so far. Punch it! Hey Rebel Rouser, I'm Alan Voivod and this is Star Wars 7x7, your daily dose of Star Wars joy, and thank you so much for joining me for it. So it seems like it's gone in a flash, and yet it also seems like a little bit of a long time too. Star Wars 7x7 turns 8 today. It's kind of shocking that it's 8 years that this podcast has delivered on its promise of bringing a daily dose of Star Wars joy into the lives of people in, at this point, more than 160 countries around the world. Just absolutely stunning and crazier than I ever expected it to become. In fact, I'm thrilled to announce that the podcast just crossed last month the 3 million download threshold. It's absolutely stunning and unbelievable. And I'm so grateful to you for helping to make that happen. In fact, you are one of the 8 things that I wanted to talk about. If not for you listening to this podcast, whether you're listening to it daily, weekly, binging, over on YouTube and watching it, you make this show possible every single day with your own desire to add a dose of Star Wars joy into your life. That level of positivity, that level of dedication to this fandom, this franchise, this mythology that we all get to experience and have gotten to experience over, depending on how long you've been around, the course of 40 plus years. We are so lucky to have this story to bind us together. And I am so lucky that you've decided to join me for some part of your own fandom journey. So thank you so much for making this show possible by listening, by watching, by being a part of this amazing journey. And while we're talking about storytelling, I also want to give a shout out to Lucasfilm for a very courageous decision, at least, in my view, to be sure, of rebooting the storytelling canon in April of 2014 as they did. That was a controversial decision at the time, and it still causes its share of controversy now and again when people want to stir things up. But it actually served, for me at least, to make Star Wars storytelling accessible again, and I think it really inspired additional generations of Star Wars fans to get in on the new expanded universe of storytelling with the books and the comics, and now with these new storytelling mediums like virtual reality, for example. Now, as for Lucasfilm itself, if there's one particular person that I'd like to tip my cap to on this momentous occasion for the podcast, certainly it could be Kathleen Kennedy, certainly it could be Dave Filoni, but for me, for my own personal journey with Star Wars, it would have to be Matt Martin, who is with the Lucasfilm Story Group, but at the time that the podcast launched, he was managing the Star Wars website and doing social media for them, and in particular, one of the sections of the website that he was in control of was the community section of the website. And that doesn't really exist anymore, but back then, it had links to costuming clubs and fan organizations and also podcasts, and to be welcomed into that fold, to have Star Wars 7x7 appear on the official Star Wars website, linked out from the Star Wars website, and to have Matt say, yeah, I'm definitely going to add you on here. What a vote of confidence that was for somebody who was just starting out in the podcasting business. It may have been one decision among dozens that he had to make that day about a whole host of things, and it may not be something that it registered with him at the level that it registered with me, but to this day, I still am so overwhelmingly grateful to Matt Martin for helping to give me a sense of belonging in Star Wars fandom, to know that my contributions to the fandom through my own particular means with this podcast were not only welcomed but encouraged. Meanwhile, there's another group of folks who have been instrumental in supporting and encouraging my production of this show on a daily basis, and that is the patrons who have supported the show at patreon.com/SW7x7. That's covered the web hosting cost and the podcast hosting cost and the occasional equipment upgrades and all of those hard dollar costs that go into making this podcast on a daily basis. And if that's something that you would like to support, if you value this daily dose of Star Wars joy in your life and can afford a couple of bucks in the tip jar on a monthly basis, then I hope you will consider signing up at patreon.com/SW7X7. Now, in particular, there are 7 people that I want to especially say thank you to for their long-term support of the podcast, including Dennis, Doug, Pam, Bobby, Tim, Josh, and Andy, for so much more than just supporting the podcast, for supporting me, for your friendship, for your graciousness, your insight, your joy, your love for Star Wars, your particular love for Star Wars, which has similarities to my own, but is also different in its own wonderful way, in your own wonderful ways. I'm so lucky and blessed to have met you along this journey, and I hope that I've given you reason to feel the same way about me. So the next thing that I want to talk about from a gratitude standpoint is the opportunity to go to celebrations past. I've been to 5 Star Wars celebrations since the reboot of the whole storytelling canon, twice in Anaheim, once in Chicago, once in Orlando, and once to London. The next one, of course, is happening in London in April of 2023. I did not try to get tickets for it, and I don't think I'm going to be going this time around. Not unless that happens with the new media thing that they're going to be doing and there's some sort of sponsorship thing behind it. Yeah, I don't see it happening, and so I'm going to be checking it out from home along with everybody else and trying to keep up as best I can. But man, the ones that I've gotten to so far have been just spectacular. The experience of it is overwhelming and mind-blowing, and it's something that I hope every Star Wars fan gets to experience at some point in their lives. It's just such a remarkable time with so many incredible creators and so many people who have dedicated their lives to Star Wars in such unique ways. And especially when you consider just how locked down we've been over the last couple of years due to the pandemic, the opportunity to be around people and to be around lots of people who love the same things that you love. Yeah, that's something that I treasured more than I necessarily thought I would. I certainly treasured it a lot more this time around than I necessarily did in previous years. I might have taken it a little bit for granted. I do not anymore. Another thing that came out of getting to go to Celebration is possibly the most amazing Star Wars tourist experience of my life, which was getting to go to Skellig Michael. And just by beautiful serendipity, that happened on the 2nd anniversary of the podcast in 2016. I got to go out there with my son Joe, and we spent a couple of hours out on the island with a tour group. We were in the Saddle, which is that grassy area where Rey walks up to Luke and hands him the lightsaber, and then also got to check out the beehive cells, which are the huts where the monks had stayed hundreds of years ago, out like 9 miles into the Atlantic in this incredibly stormy place. Thankfully, the weather was pretty good out there. I mean, couldn't really ask for better, honestly. I got to go out there with my son Joe, and we spent a couple of hours on the island with a tour group. It was as good of a weather day as you could possibly hope for. We were in the Saddle, which is the grassy area in between the 2 peaks where Rey walks up to Luke with his lightsaber, and we got to check out the beehive cells where all the monks that were out there hundreds of years ago were hanging out. That, of course, we saw in The Last Jedi as well. It was just such a magical experience, and I don't know if you remember the first Muppet movie, and there's a song that Gonzo sings, it's "I'm going to go back there someday." Well, that's how I feel about Skellig Michael. I hope to high heaven that I'm able to go back there someday, because it was just such an incredible experience, even for just that brief window of time to be there, that I hope I get the opportunity again someday. And the 8th and final highlight milestone thing for which I'm grateful that I want to share with you today has to do with the fact that the podcast gave me the opportunity to do a TEDx talk in November of 2019. And I particularly want to thank Aaron Newhart, who nominated me to the TEDx committee for consideration. They put out the offer to people that they say, oh yeah, let's see what you got. And I also want to thank Lonnie Voivod, who is my wife, my business partner, my partner in all things in this world, who helped me develop the concept to present to the TEDx nomination people that was considered and ultimately selected for inclusion in their 2019 event. Internally, at least, the talk is called Hyperspacing Hope over on the TED website, because it is now on the official TED website, which is amazing. It's under a headline, Why Hope is Star Wars' Most Powerful Force. And I will link to that in the blog post for this show's episode at sw7x7.com and in the show notes for the episode as well. I don't know about you, but every once in a while it helps to have something to boost one's hope capabilities, and I hope that provides some of that for you. So that is going to do it for the 8th anniversary of StarWars.com. And once again, I'm so grateful to you for joining me for this podcast, whether it's daily, whether it's weekly, whether it's only on certain episodes that pique your interest. I hope I've been able to bring a dose of Star Wars joy into your life whenever you've decided to listen or watch, and I hope to be doing that for you for a long time to come. But for now, it just remains for me to say thank you so much for joining me for this episode, as always. And may the Force be with you wherever in the world you may be.
Star Wars 7x7 is not endorsed or sponsored yet by Lucasfilm Limited, Disney, or 20th Century Fox, and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Star Wars, the Star Wars logo, all names and pictures of Star Wars characters, vehicles, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Lucasfilm Limited, or their respective trademark and copyright holders. May the Force be with them. All original content is copyright 2021 by Star Wars 7x7. We hope you love it.